will be let us take care of you. We give you a guarantee, not excuses.
Dear Ron, it has been only 2 nights to open your show every day, and I am sorry this is the last, but there is no way I'll say goodbye, love. Au revoir, mon amour.
No jingle?
Why, of course it'll be the same. My goodness. Hello, love. It is 9:14. It's 77 WABC. That's Ron Lundy in our greatest city in the world. Good morning, Mr. Ingram.
Good morning, Mr. Lundy.
How are you, sir? I'm fine.
I'm in pain, as I am. I'm not used to being up this early in the morning. I haven't got into the city before 10 o'clock in the morning in years.
Dan, I've never seen you up this early in the morning.
I've never been up this early in the morning. But I had a great breakfast. I had a dozen oysters and a half a bottle of Beaujolais, and I'm feeling real good.
May I say something before you get started on the oysters and the Beaujolais?
No, I've already done that.
I want to tell everybody that this special edition of the Dan Ingram, Ron Lundy Show is brought to you in its entirety by LaSalle all-natural ice cream.
Oh, that's a good stuff.
And I understand that Irene Fulrath has about 19,000 cases in her office. They can't even get in there for all the ice cream. So are you ready?
It was delivered Friday, and it's all over her rug right now.
1961 is going to be the first record. You said you had something to say about 1960?
Well, a friend of mine...
I was still in school. You know, I don't remember.
I just got out of college. Richard Lorenzo, who works for Richard Foreman Associates, sent me a chronology of everything that's happened at WABC over the years, and I thought I might refer to it from time to time just to talk about some of the things we did. 1960 was actually the beginning of the up to about 3 hours from now, the modern format of, I guess it's the formerly modern format of WABC, because Martin Block was on this station. If you remember, Martin Block was on WNEW for 100 years when WNEW was a, believe it or not, top 40 radio station. And they hired Martin, and Martin used to come in one day a week. And John McDonald, who probably had the best hands...
First engineer ever worked with here.
Best hands, he was the best turntable man in the business. Incredible. He would take a copy of a record and make it 3 minutes long or 2 minutes and 10 seconds long or anything you wanted. You couldn't tell on the air. And Martin used to come in and just record the talk. All he do was what they called chatter track. And he came in 2 days, and I remember Martin used to give John a couple $100 a week in cash just so he could hit the network for him with all those little chatter tracks and make the records right. Anyway, Martin Block retired in 1960, and WABC hired Mitch Miller to create sing-along jingles. If you may or may not remember them. The sing-along jingles...
hard remembering Mitch Miller.
Right. I saw him on the street. He looks pretty good. He got 50 cents for each one of those albums, and he sold 14 million of them, so you know where he's at. Anyway, they were touting the new lineup. Hal Neal had hired morning mayor Herb Oscar Anderson. Don McNeil was on with the Breakfast Club that year. Happy Huggy Bear Charlie Greer.
Swing, Charlie
Swing, right. Farrell Smith was on after that. Jack Carney, who we both know from WIL in St. Louis,
sure,
who is a fascinating guy and the best lockpick in the world. And he also switched over to talk. He's on, what's that station in St. Louis, the big mother?
KMOX.
KMOX, he's still there. Anyway, Chuck Dunaway was then on after the 7 o'clock news block. Scott Muni was on from 10 to midnight.
Scotland Yard.
In Scotland Yard, that's right. And overnight, they had Big Joe's Happiness Exchange. Big Joe used to come in and take bandages off people to prove they were injured and then ask for money over the air.
I always thought that was Herb Oscar Anderson moonlighting.
He made a lot of money, I'll tell you that. And then Bill Owens was on. Bill Owens was also one of the original Swingin' 7 DJs. Then the first survey, which was put out by Mr. Mike Josephs, who was the program consultant at the time. We talk about tight lists. Are you ready for this? The first WABC radio swinging sound survey had this list. The top 7 LPs, 7 Sure Shot LPs, the swinging 70 singles, soaring 70 singles, plus soaring 7 singles, and the 77 sound sleeper. It was very alliterative, all that, very sibilant. Then in 61, the swinging 7 sound survey debuted. Later in the year, sometime after July, it became the Silver Dollar survey, which was a direct steal from John Box, for whom we worked at K-Box and WIL, and became the Swinging Silver Dollar survey about the time I arrived here, which was July the 3rd of 1961. We used to call it the Ingram Flingrum. And we had Peter the meter reader and his weather machine. which I stole from an audition tape that some turkey sent to me.
Probably me.
You were in St. Louis on WIL. And Fat Pontoon, the weather girl, which I borrowed from Bob Dayton, who, incidentally, will be on the new Musicradio satellite service along with us. And Fat Pontoon was a takeoff on Pat Fontaine, who used to do the Today Show for a while. She did, didn't she do weather in St. Louis?
She did the weather at KMWX in St. Louis on television.
That's right. And Cousin Brucey came in I believe it was October, November, and or maybe it was September, I don't remember. Muni and Marl were called the M&M Boys.
Of course.
Because the Yankees, Mantle and Maris, were called the M&M Boys. And the Principal of the Year contest, we had our first one that year, which we borrowed from Bob Whitney, who programmed KBOX.
And WIL.
And the Swingin' Seven Jocks appeared at Freedomland, and there was a picture of me in the newspaper, a very strained look on my face, because that particular day, all the men's rooms were locked for some reason, and there were a lot of disc jockeys running from pavilion to pavilion trying to find some place to go. Fred Hall became the first all-night music host, and that's what happened in 1961.
I'm going to tell you, we're going to go, well, let's try to play some songs starting in
We're gonna play
61. Yeah, we are going to play a few records.
It says Talk Radio on the microphone.
Actually, yes, it does. WABC Talk Radio.
Quickly pasted over the old logo, I might add.
This song actually came out toward the end of 1960, but it stayed around in 1961. This was the Shirelles' second big hit. Do you remember this?
Sure I do.
Well, will you love me tomorrow? I certainly will, sweetheart. Actually, that was, I guess, about their third song, but it really caught fire. The first one that they really had a big hit on was Tonight's the Night. You remember that?
Yeah, sure do.
That's good. That's the Shirelles. It's 9:23. It's 77 WABC. That's Ron Lundy with my buddy Dan Ingram. Oh, let's sell some ice cream and we'll get right back.
In the next 60 seconds.
We value good taste.
Oh, love it, LaSalle ice cream. Thank you.
Right.
It's 9:24 WABC. Dan, this is a Monday morning. This is the 10th day of May.
May 10?
Yeah.
Well, congratulations.
You thought I was going to say a day that'll live in infamy, didn't you?
No.
Well, with you and me together.
Tomorrow is May 11th, which
That's
happens to be the 7th anniversary of my marriage to Jeannie, and I'm going to take the day off.
Has it been that long
Yes,
since I wore
7
that
years.
little white vest?
At my wedding, you're my best man.
And gave away the tie that you gave me on the...
On Channel 13.
Channel 13,
Our
where I was
auction.
selling things.
I was so hurt when
I
you
didn't
did
mean to do that, Dan. It was just the only thing I could come up with to sell.
That's why I stole your hubcap.
I know. Dan sold my hubcap. I sold his tie. Those were the good old days. No, actually, these are the good old days.
Things are
right.
really getting better, as a matter of fact.
Well, I don't know if they're getting better or not. They're getting
All I
bigger.
know is I got 7 weeks of paid vacation before I go over to the satellite, and that's going to be fun because they got 68 stations lined up so far. I don't know how many they've signed, but
I don't get any vacation. See, I didn't even know you were getting paid. See, I never knew that you got paid here until about a couple of months ago. I just thought you came in and did it for kicks.
well, I do. It's fun.
I've never been paid, Dan. I think something is amiss here. 1962
Yes.
was a very good year.
Well, that was the year the WABC Good Guys premiered. You may not remember it, but WABC had the Good Guys. We stole it from a station in everybody steals in broadcasting. Stole it from a station in California. And then we became the 7 Good Guys plus 1 when Babaloo, the big fat daddy Pooh, came over and joined us, Bob Lewis, and he brought along his variable Wiebel Furtzer, which he used to let the time slide roll and play an old record. Everybody had a weird way of bringing on old records. It was like Dusty Diamonds on some stations.
I never did understand what he was saying the whole time.
I'm the only person in the world who has been able to repeat that. He told me that to my face once. Bob, of course, is very busy doing commercial voiceovers, and he's got more money than both of us put together. He's doing very well. We had the Hotline of Hits that year, 1962. Sam Holman was our program director. He doubled as air personality. He replaced Farrell Smith. The Lone Twister, a featured disc by the Lone Twister, disappeared when our station realized it was actually Murray the K. He put a record on, called himself the Lone Twister. The Mets The first Mets game ever was aired on WABC, and we carried the Mets baseball for the first 2 years they were in the market. And Howard Cosell and Ralph Franca hosted the pre- and post-game shows. Howard was not quite a star in those days, but I'll tell you, Howard and Ralph have...
Howard was always a star.
Yeah, but Howard and Ralph have several $1,000s of my money. We used to play gin rummy all afternoon, and Howard is a consummate card counter. And Ralph Franca ain't no bad gin player either. And I just kept getting skunked, schneided. They won an awful lot of my money. Les Marshock, who is, I don't know where Les is now. He's doing commercials. I know. I hear him a lot and he was at another station in New York. He won the Be a DJ for a Day contest on WABC and joined Cousin Brucey on the air and became a high school sports reporter for WABC and eventually became a disc jockey. He was studying to be a pharmacist and went on and got his degree. So I guess he can legally, well, anyway. Les went on to be a disc jockey at other stations, and we had a whole lot of good guys because that was the year that WMCA stole it from us in the same market and called themselves the good guys and started putting out T-shirts. And that was 62 anyway. So what happened in 62 to you?
Well, I remember one thing in 1962. It was a song, everybody, was doing the big dance to it. And Carole King wrote it. And it came out with some little girl named Little Eva.
Oh.
And to this day, I'll swear this is Carole King.
I'll think it.
I really believe it.
Everybody's doing a brand new dance now.
I don't know. I always did that. I think it was Carole King. I really did. And then when they used to go around with the shows in Dick Park, they used to have a little girl. I was supposed to be Carole King's babysitter or something recorded it, but that really sounds like Carole King.
Carole King. And the reason I know you're right is because in two different Dick Clark shows, the girl who was Little Eva was a different girl each time.
Oh, really?
Oh, really?
That's like Steely Dan.
That's right.
Yeah. Listen, it's 9:30 at WABC. I want to thank George Calvin for giving us all this ice cream today.
Okay, Jimmy, next announcer, please. Just one second.
Value good taste. You're going to value LaSalle ice cream. Yum. A little early in the morning, but...
That's good stuff.
Oh, that is good.
I love it on Wheaties.
Oh, I do, too.
On Wheaties.
I do, too. I didn't think anybody else did that with me. Oh, I love it. Oh, yeah.
It's great on Wheaties.
Oh, it really is in the morning. Get that good sugar going for you. It's 9:32 at WABC. Hey, we're up to 1963, Dan.
We are already?
Oh, we're just going through some fast years.
Well, wait till we get to the 70s. They'll go by real quick.
I don't even remember the 70s.
Almost nothing happened in the 70s. In 63, WABC finally realized there were too many good guys in New York. So we changed our name. We had a meeting with Hal Neal, and we just decided what could we do that WMCA couldn't copy. Well, we said, we'll be the All-Americans, and that's where we became the All-Americans, and we presented the new All-American survey on the most illogical day. I've never been able to figure out why, but Tuesday afternoon is when we brought the new survey on. It made no sense whatsoever, but that's what we did, and it got carved in stone. Cousin Brucey also did the same thing the same night. He would do the same thing and count down the survey. The Four Seasons recorded Cousin Brucey's tune, Having a Ball with Cousin Brucey. You remember that. Go, go, Cousin Brucey. And Scott Muni went into the WABC gold mine every night. Dayton Place became in. Bob Dayton became the resident weekend host. He started here working weekends. And the station temporarily ceased playing the hits following the JFK assassination, which I remember quite vividly. We started playing a lot of Mantovani and did that for about a week. And then, as happened many times after that, I was the guy that had to go back on the air. And
that's the truth. I was thinking back, seems like you were on the air when everything happened.
I was. And it's, frankly, not very good memories. But I remember going back on the air, and I remember saying, well, ain't nothing I can do about it. I'm the guy that's here to do it. I got some awfully nice mail from people about that.
I'll bet you did.
Yeah. There are a lot of good people out there. A lot of crazy people, too. I have two letters that hang on my wall. One is neatly typed and single-spaced on onion skin paper from a chap who was working on his Ph.D., and the thrust of the letter is that he used to listen to me while he was doing his work and had it on in the background. And he said every once in a while he'd say something that would make him laugh, and he thought that was very nice. And the other letter is written in crayon. And it says, shut the
They
bleep
won't let
up.
them have sharp objects.
It says, shut the bleep up when you're introducing records. You're ruining my tape recorder. So you realize those are your parameters.
1963.
Yeah.
Oh, what a year. What a year. I wasn't here then. I was still in school. But I do remember some of the songs. Oh, yeah. Oh, well, they really had little bitty short records back in those days, didn't they?
I loved it.
I don't know if it was here, but I know about this time in St. Louis, we wouldn't play a record if it was 3 minutes long. It was 2:30, 2:45. Because it just didn't have enough time. There were so many commercials.
Sure.
There were so many commercials and so many promotions and so many contests. You just didn't have time to play the long record.
Well, I remember Do Lang very well because the first time that record came out, I came out of the music meeting with it, went into the air, and played it 3 times in a row and blew out the switchboard downstairs. And Wally Schwartz, who was our general manager at the time, wonderful guy, came storming in the studio and said, knock it off. He couldn't get a call out. I did that with Help when it came out. Really?
So I played all afternoon, every record. You know. 1964 saw the Beatles. Saw the beginning of WABC. Actually, I think it was about 10, 12, 14 record companies that had so much Beatle recordings tucked away in the safes and everything, which they thought, of course, I mean, what's this, a funny-looking group from England with long hair. If you've seen pictures of the Beatles today, you look at them, they didn't have long hair at all. Really? But back then, I guess they did because, it was crew cut and thin tie city days. Very thin ties.
You couldn't see their ears.
Yeah, and the pleats were going out of pants and all that stuff.
Well, 64 was the year that Rick Squire became the program director here at WABC and turned a #1 station into a superstation, WABC. Yep. We had the Beatles Sound Spectacular, win a date with the Beatles. We raised an awful lot of money for cerebral palsy with that. And if you remember, some fans stole Ringo's St. Christopher medal. The medallion that he had around his neck. And we did with the New York Times, which never covers radio. Last week they did, but everybody at the New York Times was there, and we gave back the medal. And, of course, we had all kinds of kids out in the street. Do we have that tape around here from... I may have it here. Let me just take a look at my thing. We've played this before, but I'd like to play this now. There were 10,000 kids out in the street.
This is when everybody was singing the jingles?
Everybody was singing the jingles, and we played this before, played it on the 20th show. I think it bears repeating. This is frightening to me because it shows you how much power you have and don't know it usually when you're on the air. We hung a mic out the window, and Scott Muni and Bruce Morrow
and I... This was over to Warwick, right?
Over to Warwick. We're on the air, and we asked the kids to sing along, and this is what happened.
And while you're in such a great mood, while that crowd is in such a great mood, Big Dan, out there on Park Avenue, and we dearly love them.
Yeah.
Scotzo's here with Cousin Brucey, and Dan, you're right there. Let's have a little sing-along with all the crowd out there. Everybody stand by. We want you to sing along to a few of our All-American jingles. Let's live it up.
All right, can I sing along with the one about the team first? We all ready?
Let's do the team. Everybody stand by and listen and sing along to our team jingle.
All right, here we go. Sing along.
The greatest team in the world. You! And 77 WABC. All-American.
That's pretty good. Do you think they could do it a little louder this time if we play a different jingle for them?
Yeah, they'll try it again. They're great. We love them.
Let's go with another jingle for the crowd.
Let's go with another one, Dan.
Your world. Let's sing it.
That's almost good enough. One more time with another jingle. One more time with another jingle. All right?
Time.
Here we go. This time real big. Let's hear it now.
Let's swing. All-American. On 77.
I think that deserves a Beatles record, right? Okay, let's go with Beatles music. Roll over,
Oh, yeah. Tell you something.
Well, that was some day. That was an incredible day. that 64 incidentally was the year they had the April Fool's Day, where they had me in the studio patched out, and I thought I was on the air, and I wasn't, and Bob Dayton was on the air. That was kind of fun. That was a good year, 64. That's when it all really started to hang together.
That's because I was still in St. Louis.
You were still in St. Louis, so it's like, I feel like, what was the Mamas and Papas record, Creek Alley?
Yeah, right.
John and Mitchie were still out there.
Express card, right. Oh, boy, that was really good. I remember when the Beatles came out. I did not like the Beatles at all. I really didn't. I just thought that they sounded like four Everly Brothers. And I really did, you know. And I mean, everything, all of a sudden, I've never seen anything like that in my life, the way that they took off. Now, that was on Capitol, that record, but they had so many, like I said before, that everybody in the world had recorded and had in safe. But that was actually a first American hit.
Well,
I
BJ
want to
had
hold
all
your
that
hand.
stuff.
Oh, yeah, and truly,
I
all
had that
kinds
in
of stuff.
63. I got me with Bob Maxwell, who's been around music for years. Gave me the album and said, what do you think of it? I said,
Yeah, me too. It took me, I don't know, I guess to see them in concert to really appreciate it. It really did. I've never seen anything like that in my life. Of course, the Beatles, not unlike the Beach Boys, are really a recording group. Because the Beatles on stage, I'm sure, you know, a lot of you have seen them, but you couldn't hear them anyway.
No.
And, I mean, they couldn't hear each other to get their pitch, to get their tone. They couldn't even hear each other on the stage.
Well, in the Shea Stadium concert, we had some film that someone shot, which was actually picking up what they were doing.
Yeah.
They weren't singing at all. They were on
And you couldn't tell the difference. You really couldn't. But anyway, I was still out in St. Louis then, and I was getting a little edgy, a little excited, calling Rich Sklar every third day and calling you, and that was in 1964. The special edition of the Dan Ingram, Ron Lundy program is being brought to you by...